Jorge Fassbinder announced that they had found the long-lost tomb of Gilgamesh near the ancient city of Uruk.
For thousands of years, people have searched for the lost tomb of Gilgamesh, the legendary king of ancient Uruk. Many believe he was only a myth, while others insist he was a real ruler whose tomb remains buried beneath the sands of Iraq. In 2003, archaeologists uncovered a mysterious structure matching ancient descriptions of his burial place. The discovery stunned experts, but before they could investigate further, the excavation suddenly stopped. Was this truly Gilgamesh's lost tomb, or does history's greatest mystery remain unsolved? Join us as we uncover the story. What archaeologists found inside Gilgamesh's lost tomb left them speechless. For thousands of years, the ancient city of Uruk rested beneath the dry land of southern Iraq. Wind carried dust across its ruins. Rain slowly covered its streets with layers of mud. Generation after generation passed without knowing what remained below the ground. Yet long before modern cities were built, Uruk was one of the greatest places on Earth. Many historians believe it was the world's first true city. At its highest point, it may have been home to around 50,000 people. It was a busy place filled with workers, traders, builders, priests, and rulers. Wide streets connected large buildings. Canals carried water across the land. Farmers grew crops outside the city walls. Life in Uruk helped shape the beginning of human civilization. For more than 100 years, archaeologists have worked to uncover its secrets. Every discovery has shown that Uruk was far more advanced than many people once believed. But one discovery in 2003 brought new excitement. It also raised questions that still have no clear answers today. A German team of archaeologists traveled to southern Iraq to continue studying the ancient city. Instead of digging immediately, they used modern technology to look beneath the surface. Ground-penetrating radar sent signals deep into the earth. Satellite images helped map the land from above. These tools allowed the team to see what was buried without disturbing the site. What appeared on their screens surprised everyone involved. Hidden beneath the desert lay what looked like an entire ancient city, almost untouched. It was almost like looking at a map of a city that had simply been covered by sand instead of being destroyed. This showed that the people of Uruk understood engineering far better than many had imagined. They built canals that helped move water where it was needed. They planned their city with care. They understood how to make life possible in a hot and dry land. The discovery suggested that much of ancient Uruk remained hidden below the surface, waiting to be explored. As the team continued studying the radar images, they noticed something unusual near one of the old waterways. Away from the houses stood a large structure that looked different from everything around it. Its shape and position caught the researchers' attention almost immediately. It reminded them of a story that had survived for thousands of years. That story was the Epic of Gilgamesh, the oldest known epic ever written. In the ancient story, Gilgamesh was described as the powerful king of Uruk. The epic tells of his adventures, his search for eternal life, and finally, his death. One part of the story gives a detailed description of how his burial took place. It says that a river was temporarily moved away from its normal path. A burial place was built in the empty riverbed. When the work was finished, the river was allowed to flow back over the tomb. Water then hid the burial place from the outside world. The strange structure found by the radar seemed to stand in a place that matched this old description. The discovery immediately became one of the most talked about archaeological stories of the year. Still, the German archaeologists remained careful with their words. They did not announce that they had found the tomb of Gilgamesh. They did not claim the mystery had been solved. Instead, they explained that the structure was simply consistent with the ancient description found in the epic. In other words, it looked similar enough that it deserved careful excavation. Only digging into the site could reveal what the structure really was. It might have been a royal tomb. It might have been a temple. It might have been another important building from the ancient city. No one could know without further investigation. The next step was clear. Archaeologists needed to begin a full excavation. But before that work could begin, history took a different path. In 2003, Iraq was drawn into war. As fighting spread across the country, archaeological work became impossible. International teams were forced to leave. Excavations stopped. Ancient sites could no longer be protected or studied safely. The promising investigation at Uruk ended before the first careful dig could begin. What the radar had revealed remained buried beneath the earth. More than 20 years later, many of those questions remain unanswered. No one has confirmed whether the mysterious structure is connected to Gilgamesh. No one has proven that it is even a burial place. Yet the discovery remains important because it showed that much of ancient Uruk still lies hidden beneath the desert. Before anyone can understand the mystery beneath Uruk, one question must be answered first. Who was Gilgamesh? And why has his story survived for more than 4,000 years? Stay tuned for more. The king behind the legend and the mysteries that remain. The discovery beneath the desert raised another question that has been asked for hundreds of years. Was Gilgamesh a real man, or was he only a character from an old story? Historians have searched for the answer for a very long time. While many parts of the Epic of Gilgamesh tell of gods, monsters, and impossible journeys, there is also evidence that points to a real king who may have lived thousands of years ago. One of the strongest pieces of evidence is the Sumerian king list. This ancient document was written by the people of Mesopotamia. It records the names of many rulers who led different cities over long periods of time. Among those names is Gilgamesh. The list places him as the fifth king of the first dynasty of Uruk after the Great Flood. Over time, real events may have mixed with myths until the man became a legend. Across ancient Mesopotamia, builders often placed special objects beneath the foundations of important buildings. Archaeologists have found many of these deposits during excavations. Some contained written inscriptions. Others held valuable objects or items used in religious ceremonies. These discoveries show that hiding important objects inside building foundations was a real custom. While questions about Gilgamesh continued, another event unfolded during the same year that changed the future of Mesopotamian archaeology. In April 2003, the Iraq Museum in Baghdad was looted during the chaos that followed the invasion of Iraq. The museum contained one of the richest collections of ancient artifacts anywhere in the world. Inside were objects from thousands of years of history. Many had been recovered from cities such as Uruk, Ur, Babylon, and Nineveh. During the disorder, around 15,000 artifacts disappeared. Investigators later discovered that not every theft happened in the same way. Some people smashed display cases and stole whatever they could carry. Others appeared to know exactly where certain valuable objects were stored. Some secured rooms were entered, and specific artifacts were removed. The investigation concluded that at least part of the theft seemed organized, but it did not identify exactly who carried it out or which items were the intended targets. Many of the missing objects have since been recovered, but thousands are still missing today. Among the museum's treasures were thousands of ancient clay tablets covered with cuneiform writing. These tablets contain information about daily life, trade, farming, law, religion, medicine, astronomy, and government in ancient Mesopotamia. Although experts have translated many of them, a huge number remain unread or only partly understood. This is not because they are unimportant. It is simply because there are not enough specialists to study every tablet that has been discovered. Every year, researchers continue translating more texts, and some have completely changed what historians thought they knew about the ancient world. Many important discoveries may still be waiting inside collections that have not yet been fully examined. The ancient city of Uruk also continues to hold many unanswered questions. Even after more than 100 years of archaeological work, only part of the city has been explored. Large areas remain buried beneath the desert. Modern technology has shown that many buildings still lie underground, untouched by excavation. Some foundation deposits have never been opened. Entire neighborhoods may still be waiting beneath the sand. Every new survey reminds archaeologists that Uruk is much larger than the parts already uncovered. There is still much to learn about the people who lived there and the city they built thousands of years ago. Today, the greatest mystery is not whether stories exist. The stories have survived for more than 4,000 years. The real mystery is how much truth may be hidden inside them. Archaeologists know that Uruk was a real city. They know that foundation deposits were a real tradition. They know that Gilgamesh appears in ancient king lists, suggesting he may have been based on a real ruler. but they do not know whether the unusual structure found beneath the desert is connected to him. They do not know whether a royal tomb still waits underground. They do not know whether the famous lapis lazuli tablet ever existed. These questions remain unanswered because the evidence has not yet been uncovered. Until careful excavations continue and discoveries are made, the story of Gilgamesh will remain balanced between history and legend. It stands as one of the oldest stories ever written, reminding the world that some of history's greatest mysteries are not solved by belief or imagination, but by patient research, careful study, and discoveries that may still lie hidden beneath the sands of ancient Iraq. If a mysterious structure still lies beneath the sands of Uruk, another question must be asked. How much of the story of Gilgamesh is based on real history, and how much has grown into legend over the past 4,000 years? Keep watching to find out. The legend, the truth, and the mystery that remains. Many stories have been told about Gilgamesh over the last 4,000 years. Some people see him as a great king who once ruled the ancient city of Uruk. Others believe he was only a hero from an old poem. The ancient story describes him as someone who was very different from ordinary people. It says he was 2/3 divine and 1/3 human. It also says he had great strength, great wisdom, and courage that no other man could match. He faced dangerous enemies, traveled farther than anyone else, and searched for the secret of living forever. These stories have been passed from one generation to another for thousands of years. However, historians explain that these descriptions belong to an ancient poem. They should not be accepted as historical proof. Ancient writers often gave their greatest heroes special powers to show how important they were. This happened in many cultures around the world. Great kings were often described as stronger, wiser, or greater than ordinary people. That does not mean every detail was meant to be taken as fact. Instead, these stories helped people remember famous rulers long after they were gone. The story of Gilgamesh appears to follow the same pattern. Behind the legend may have been a real king, but the supernatural parts belong to the world of ancient storytelling. One part of the story has continued to interest historians more than almost any other. It tells how Gilgamesh was buried after his death. According to the ancient account, the people of Uruk carried out an unusual plan. They first stopped the flow of the Euphrates River by changing its path. Once the riverbed became dry, they built a burial place inside the empty channel. After the work was finished, they allowed the river to return to its normal course. Water then flowed over the tomb, hiding it beneath the river itself. This part of the story has attracted attention because it sounds less like magic and more like a real building project. Diverting a river, building inside the dry channel, and allowing the water to return are clear steps that could actually be carried out. That is why many historians believe this part of the story deserves careful study. At the same time, no one can say with certainty that it really happened. The story remains an ancient tradition that has never been proven by excavation. Finding such a burial place has never been easy. Ancient Uruk covered a huge area of land. It was one of the largest cities in the ancient world. Over thousands of years, its mud brick buildings slowly fell apart and became part of the earth again. Wind covered the ruins with sand. Floods left behind thick layers of mud. The Euphrates River also changed its path many times throughout history. Old river channels disappeared while new ones formed. Because of these changes, many ancient buildings now lie deep beneath the ground. Searching for one structure in such a large area is extremely difficult. For many years, archaeologists had no practical way to search beneath the surface without digging thousands of holes. That would have taken many years, cost huge amounts of money, and still might not have found the right place. Modern technology has made the search easier, but large parts of the ancient city still remain buried. Much of Uruk has never been fully explored, leaving many important questions without answers. As interest in Gilgamesh grew, many false stories also began to spread across the internet. Some claimed that archaeologists had discovered the giant skeleton of Gilgamesh hidden beneath the desert. Others shared dramatic photographs showing enormous human bones inside ancient excavation sites. These pictures quickly spread across social media and were presented as proof that the legendary king had been found. However, careful investigation showed that these claims were completely false. The giant skeleton images were not real archaeological photographs. They were digital artworks created for entertainment and later shared with false descriptions. None of the pictures came from Uruk. None showed a real excavation connected to Gilgamesh. There is also no reliable evidence that any military group or archaeological team secretly removed a giant body from Iraq. No official records, trustworthy witnesses, or scientific reports support those claims. The stories became popular because they were exciting, but popularity does not make a story true. Separating fact from fiction remains one of the biggest challenges whenever ancient mysteries become famous. Today, the greatest mystery has still not been solved. Modern survey equipment has detected unusual shapes beneath the ground, but machines cannot tell archaeologists exactly what those shapes are. They can only show that something lies below the surface. A buried structure could be a tomb, a temple, a house, a storage building, or something else entirely. The equipment cannot identify who built it or what it was used for. Only careful excavation can answer those questions. At the present time, no excavation has confirmed that any buried structure belongs to Gilgamesh. Because of this, the mystery remains open. The possibility continues to interest researchers, but it has not become a fact. Historians continue to study the ancient writings, while archaeologists continue to explore the remains of Uruk whenever possible. Until new discoveries are made through proper scientific work, the story of Gilgamesh will remain balanced between history and legend. It reminds us that some of the world's oldest mysteries are not solved by rumors, exciting pictures, or bold claims. They are solved through careful research, patient excavation, and evidence that can be tested and confirmed. For now, the questions remain, waiting for the day when archaeology may finally uncover the answers hidden beneath the ancient land. Before Gilgamesh became the legendary king remembered for his search for eternal life, what happened in the early years that transformed him from a feared ruler into a hero whose story has survived for more than 4,000 years? Let's find out. The king who feared death. Long before the rise of Greece and Rome, before the pyramids became ancient monuments, a powerful city stood on the rich land between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. That city was called Uruk. It was one of the first great cities ever built by human hands. Its people raised tall walls, built huge temples, and created one of the earliest writing systems in history. Among all the rulers who governed this remarkable city, one name survived the passing of thousands of years. That name was Gilgamesh. His story has been remembered for more than 4,000 years. While many parts of the story belong to legend, historians believe there may have been a real king behind the famous name. Over time, stories about his life grew larger than history itself, turning him into one of the world's greatest legendary heroes. According to ancient tradition, Gilgamesh ruled Uruk with unmatched strength and authority. He was brave in battle, powerful in leadership, and feared by many people. Yet his great power did not always bring peace to his kingdom. The ancient stories describe him as a ruler who often used his authority without thinking about the suffering of others. His people became unhappy and prayed for help. They believed only the gods could change the king's heart. Their cries, according to the story, reached the heavens. The gods decided that no ordinary man could stand against Gilgamesh. They needed someone who could match his strength. So they created a man named Enkidu. Unlike Gilgamesh, Enkidu did not grow up inside a city. He lived in the wild. He ran beside animals, drank from rivers, and survived in nature without the rules of civilization. He knew nothing about kings, cities, or human customs. He lived freely among the creatures of the land and became part of their world. But that peaceful life did not last forever. Enkidu eventually met a woman who introduced him to human life. After leaving the wilderness, he traveled toward the great city of Uruk. There, he saw the life of ordinary people and learned about the powerful king who ruled over them. Before long, Enkidu stood face to face with Gilgamesh. Neither man wanted to step aside. Their meeting quickly became a fierce struggle. They wrestled with all their strength through the streets of the city, while people gathered to watch. The battle was close. Neither warrior could easily defeat the other. In the end, Gilgamesh managed to win by only the smallest margin. Instead of creating hatred between them, the contest created respect. Each man recognized the courage and strength of the other. Their rivalry ended, and a lasting friendship began. From that day forward, Gilgamesh was no longer alone. Enkidu became his closest companion. Together, they decided to seek adventure instead of fighting each other. They wanted to perform great deeds that future generations would remember. Their first great journey took them far from Uruk to the famous cedar forest. This forest was unlike any ordinary woodland. It was believed to be protected by a terrifying guardian known as Humbaba. Many feared entering the forest because Humbaba was said to possess incredible power. Even so, Gilgamesh and Enkidu refused to turn back. They entered the forest together, determined to face whatever waited for them. After a difficult search, they finally confronted the guardian. A fierce battle followed. Humbaba pleaded for mercy when he realized he could not win, but the two friends chose to strike him down. Their victory brought them great fame, but it also angered the gods. According to the ancient story, actions always carried consequences. The heroes had won another battle, but they had also begun a chain of events that would change their lives forever. Back in Uruk, another challenge soon appeared. The goddess Ishtar admired Gilgamesh and wanted him to become her companion. Gilgamesh refused because he remembered the unhappy fate of others who had accepted her love. His rejection deeply offended the goddess. Filled with anger, she called upon the mighty bull of heaven to punish both the king and his city. The creature brought fear wherever it walked. Crops were destroyed, the land suffered, and many lives were placed in danger. Once again, Gilgamesh and Enkidu stood side by side. Together, they fought the terrible beast and defeated it after a hard struggle. The people of Uruk celebrated another great victory, believing the danger had passed. They could not know that their greatest sorrow was still ahead. Gilgamesh lost his dearest companion. The death of Enkidu changed everything. The mighty king, who had once feared nothing, now found himself overcome with sadness. He had fought powerful enemies, defeated terrible creatures, and survived dangerous battles, but nothing had prepared him for losing his closest friend. Every day he remembered the adventures they had shared together. He could not accept that someone so strong could simply disappear forever. As he looked at Enkidu's lifeless body, another fear entered his heart. If death could take his friend, then one day it would come for him too. As Gilgamesh's greatest victory came with an unimaginable loss, could his desperate search for eternal life uncover a truth so extraordinary that people are still searching for it thousands of years later? Let's learn more. The journey that changed Gilgamesh forever. For the first time in his life, Gilgamesh understood that no king, no warrior, and no rich man could escape death forever. This frightening thought stayed with him wherever he went. He refused to remain inside the safety of Uruk. Instead, he decided to leave everything behind and search for the one thing every person wished they could have. He wanted to discover the secret of eternal life. According to the ancient story, this was no ordinary journey. Gilgamesh traveled farther than anyone else had ever gone. He crossed dangerous lands where very few people had dared to walk. He climbed over great mountains and passed through places filled with strange creatures and wonders. Every step tested his courage. The road was long, lonely, and filled with danger, but he refused to turn back. He believed that somewhere beyond the lands known to ordinary people, someone held the answer he was searching for. During his journey, Gilgamesh reached the edge of the world, where he met a goddess named Shiduri. Shiduri welcomed the exhausted traveler and quickly realized he was fleeing the fear of death. With compassion, she reminded Gilgamesh that every human life must eventually end. Rather than chasing immortality, she urged him to cherish family, friendship, honest work, and life's simple pleasures. To her, a meaningful life mattered more than endless years, but Gilgamesh could not accept her wisdom. He believed there had to be another answer somewhere beyond the horizon. Seeing that he would not give up, Shiduri showed him the way to continue his journey. She directed him toward the dangerous waters of death, where only one man possessed the knowledge he desired. That man was Utnapishtim, the only human being said to have received immortality from the gods. Gilgamesh crossed the deadly waters and finally reached him. Utnapishtim listened as the exhausted king explained why he had traveled so far. He told Gilgamesh about the great flood that had destroyed the world long before. According to the story, the gods had warned him about the coming disaster. He built a great boat, saved his family, and protected many living creatures until the flood ended. Because of his obedience, the gods rewarded him with eternal life. Even after sharing his story, Utnapishtim did not encourage Gilgamesh to continue seeking immortality. Instead, he explained that death is part of being human and cannot simply be defeated through determination alone. Still, Gilgamesh refused to give up. To test him, Utnapishtim offered a simple challenge. If Gilgamesh could remain awake for 7 days without sleeping, perhaps he would prove himself worthy of something greater. Gilgamesh accepted with confidence, believing his strength would carry him through the test. However, the challenge ended almost as soon as it began. He fell asleep immediately. His failure showed that even the strongest king could not overcome the natural limits placed upon every human being. Although Gilgamesh had failed, Utnapishtim showed him one final act of kindness. He revealed the location of a magical plant growing deep beneath the water. The plant was said to restore youth to anyone who possessed it. Filled with hope once again, Gilgamesh searched until he found it. At last, it seemed that all his suffering had not been in vain. He held the plant in his hands and believed he had finally found a way to defeat old age. But during his journey home, while stopping to rest, a snake quietly approached and stole the plant before he could use it. The snake disappeared, taking with it Gilgamesh's final chance to escape the fate shared by every human being. At first, the loss filled him with disappointment. Everything he had searched for was gone. Yet something inside him had changed. When he finally returned to the great city of Uruk, he looked upon its mighty walls with different eyes. He no longer measured success by how long a person could live. Instead, he realized that people are remembered through the lives they touch, the cities they build, and the good they leave behind. According to the story, Gilgamesh recorded everything he had learned during his journey on a lapis lazuli tablet. He placed that record beneath the walls of Uruk so that future generations could discover it and learn from his mistakes as well as his victories. Reports have it that although the story contains many legendary events, historians believe Gilgamesh himself may have been based on a real king who ruled Uruk thousands of years ago. Over the centuries, his story spread across civilizations and became one of the oldest surviving works of literature ever written. Its message has remained powerful because it speaks about questions that every generation continues to ask. People still wonder about life, death, friendship, loss, and what gives life real meaning. Rather than finding a way to live forever, Gilgamesh discovered something far more lasting. A person's name survives not because they escape death, but because they live a life that others continue to remember long after they are gone. The story of Gilgamesh might just be a myth, but when there is the same myth in different books and throughout generations, there might just be a reality. What do you think about the legend of Gilgamesh? Share your thoughts in the comments section below. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed exploring the incredible story of Gilgamesh, the ancient city of Uruk, and the mystery that has fascinated historians for thousands of years, please like, subscribe, and click on the next video for more amazing stories. See you there.